Every man walks into a room, but only one man truly enters it. The difference is not wealth, not muscle, and certainly not the sound of his voice. The difference is an invisible, crushing psychological gravity. For too long, you've chased respect with explanations and energy, begging the world to see your value. Today, that humiliation ends. Today, we forge the God-level aura, a presence so undeniable, so utterly self-contained, that people don't respect you because you're strong. They fear you because they can't read you. This is the ultimate weapon of the unreadable man, the silent, terrifying secret Machiavelli taught every true sovereign. If you want to stop seeking permission and start commanding silence, then focus your mind, because we are about to begin the final, ruthless ascent. Warriors of the internal realm, architects of unseen force, command the external world to silence its incessant, distracting noise and focus your entire unyielding will inward. For today, we execute the final, definitive ascent to the highest echelon of personal power, the meticulous, non-negotiable cultivation of the God-level aura. This supreme state of authority is never achieved through desperate shouting, through clumsy, aggressive posturing, or through the cheap, superficial acquisition of easily copied material symbols. This is the quiet, profound, magnetic, and self-contained energy that precedes your physical presence into any complex environment and lingers long after you have decisively departed. A self-sufficient, heavy presence so entirely unshakable and sovereign that the weak do not dare to even consider testing its limits, and even the conventionally strong are compelled to hesitate before daring to stand directly in its path. You have been tragically taught that genuine, unshakable respect is an external reward earned through perpetual favors, through practiced, exhausting charisma, or through noisy public validation. This is a fragile, conditional, and high-maintenance form of respect that inevitably evaporates the very moment you cease to perform for the audience. The Machiavellian ruler, however, seeks a higher, more potent, and more reliable form of compliance. Respect born of non-verbal fear, the immediate, primal, instinctive awareness that you are an irreversible force of consequence, profoundly unpredictable, and entirely sovereign over your own actions and emotions. This God-level aura is not merely a superficial display of confidence. It is the visible, palpable, and felt projection of absolute total control. Control over your immediate environment, control over your inevitable outcomes, and most critically, unyielding, permanent control over the entire landscape of your own mind. It is the visible, undeniable consequence of the 7 non-negotiable pillars of self-mastery we are about to dissect. Understand this clearly. These are not simple, surface-level behavioral hacks. They are profound, existential, and fundamental shifts in your core operating system, meticulously designed to transform you from a reactive, dependent participant in the fleeting social game into the undeniable, silent, and permanent standard by which all metrics of power in any room are structurally measured. Before we begin the final, meticulous construction of this supreme, magnetic authority, you must fully internalize the demanding reality of this new existence and seal this binding vow in the comments below. A ritual of final commitment. My presence is my power. The first secret. The mastery of stillness, the first, foundational and most universally commanding secret to cultivating a God-level aura is the absolute mastery of stillness, achieving the psychological and physical state of the unmoving center. The unmastered masses are psychologically defined by their nervous, chaotic, and incessant physical motion. They perpetually fidget with their hands, their eyes dart frantically, they constantly shift their weight as if physically uncomfortable, and they speak with a breathless, rushed urgency that betrays their anxiety. These behaviors are all nonverbal signals broadcasting internal chaos, low social leverage, and a profound, easily exploited lack of self-control. The entire biological system of the unmastered individual is constantly signaling a perpetual fight-or-flight response, broadcasting to the entire room that they are easily startled, easily triggered, and fundamentally defensive and uncertain. The God-level aura is the precise psychological antithesis of this frenetic, weak energy. It is the unwavering, visible manifestation of profound, unshakable calm. When you achieve the mastery of stillness, your body language sends a non-negotiable, singular truth to every observer. I am not waiting for external permission to move. I am not seeking any validation for my presence, and absolutely nothing in this entire environment has the necessary power to displace or interrupt my internal sovereign state. This stillness must be physically absolute, but its deep governing source is entirely psychological. It demands that you must surgically eliminate every single unnecessary stray movement, every nervous twitch, every fidget, and every habit of self-soothing. When you stand as a permanent anchor, visibly immovable and perfectly centered. When you speak, your movements are deliberately slow, deeply purposeful, and entirely intentional, each minimal gesture carrying the heavy weight of intentionality, not the frantic panic of reactivity. This deliberate, profound reduction in external noise instantly creates an amplification of significance. The less you move, the more every single deliberate movement you choose to make counts. Machiavelli understood this core principle, advising that a successful ruler must, above all, project an image of gravity, stability, and unyielding strength. When your body is visibly still, your mind is immediately perceived as being unflustered by pressure, calculating, and dangerously detached. The total absence of nervous energy forces others to focus intensely and exclusively on your core message. Because they are granted no distracting, secondary behavioral material to dissect or dismiss. You command full attention not by demanding it with noise, but by projecting a stillness so profound and rare that it becomes the loudest, most dominant, and most unsettling element in the room. This mastery of stillness is the first, essential barrier to entry into your fortress. You are not easily moved, literally or figuratively, and this fact is immediately, non-verbally communicated to all who observe you. The stability of your person becomes the subtle instability of their internal predictions. The second secret, the weight of the gaze. The second most direct and psychologically challenging secret to forging this God-level aura is the precise deployment of the weight of the gaze, the maintenance of non-negotiable, sustained eye contact. The common man practices weak, fleeting, and highly conditional eye contact, a brief, nervous glance, a quick, uncomfortable shift away, a rapid retreat to the floor, the hands, or the phone, all non-verbal signals of submission, deep discomfort, and a psychological desire to actively avoid any direct confrontation. This is the telltale eye behavior of the seeker, the one perpetually asking for tacit permission to occupy space. The God-level aura requires the exact reverse, a gaze that is held, heavy, intentional, and entirely unyielding. Your eyes are correctly perceived as the windows to your soul, and if you cannot master their expression, your highly strategic silence means absolutely nothing. The weight of the gaze is not aggressive, challenging staring, which is a sign of raw, unsophisticated insecurity. It is the profound projection of absolute, unyielding psychological presence. It means holding eye contact for a moment longer than is socially deemed comfortable, establishing an instant psychological high ground. This sustained, deliberate contact communicates two profound, non-verbal messages of immense consequence. First, it asserts dominance and forces truth. It is psychologically and physically nearly impossible for an individual to lie, equivocate, or feel genuinely superior while maintaining direct, unflinching eye contact with a focused, still, and analytical individual. Your gaze instantly becomes an active truth detector, forcing the other party to confront the uncomfortable, unvarnished reality of their own motives and statements. Second, it immediately establishes a state of fearful vulnerability and exposure in the recipient. The other person feels acutely that they are being meticulously read, analyzed, and definitively categorized, yet they are entirely and helplessly unable to read your expression in return. They are forced to engage with their own rising internal anxiety and the terrifying realization that they have, without choice, become the singular, primary object of your study and classification. Machiavelli taught that a leader must be the source of fear, not mere affection, and in a nonverbal contest for social leverage, the unwavering, deliberate gaze is the single most potent source of social fear available. It ruthlessly denies the other person the comfort of psychological anonymity or the easy distraction of a weak gaze. When you listen with your eyes, calmly, analytically, without flinching, and without any visible emotional reaction. When you speak, you use your gaze to firmly anchor your statement, ensuring that every single word lands with maximum, irreversible psychological force. Your eyes are the final, most crucial gate of your fortress. When they are held steady and heavy, they project the unwavering strength of the sovereign, impenetrable mind within. This gaze is not an interaction, it is an absorption of the environment. The third secret, the velocity of speech. The third secret is the meticulous scientific control of the velocity of speech, establishing the signature, commanding cadence of the unrushed authority. The unmastered rush their words, they speak quickly, they interrupt themselves and others, they race to desperately fill every single uncomfortable moment of silence, and they rely entirely on the sheer volume and speed of their speech to create the cheap, temporary illusion of importance. This high velocity is a non-verbal plea for acceptance, a clear sign that they fear losing the floor, that they lack fundamental confidence in the inherent weight of their core message, and that they are paralyzed by the fear of judgment that accompanies a moment of shared silence. The God-level aura dictates the opposite. Absolute truth. Power moves slowly, deliberately, and with palpable weight. When you speak, you must cultivate the habit of speaking slightly, perceptibly slower than is socially standard, embracing strategic, intentional pauses and allowing your voice to resonate with deliberate, low-key authority and depth. This controlled, slow velocity achieves three critical, compounding psychological goals. First, it broadcasts the absolute control of time. By slowing the fundamental pace of the conversation and the interaction, you unilaterally declare that your time is the only time that matters, and that the interaction will proceed on your internal clock, forcing the other party to align their pace, their thoughts, and their expectations with yours. You immediately deny them the power of dictating the momentum or the energy of the exchange. Second, the deliberate, controlled pace establishes intrinsic value. When a person speaks slowly and with obvious measured intent, the listener subconsciously and automatically assigns greater importance, meaning, and weight to each individual word spoken. You ruthlessly force the listener to mentally slow down, to concentrate fully, and to process your core message with the necessary, unhurried gravity. Every single word you utter becomes a high-value currency, not a cheap, disposable commodity. Third, the power of the strategic pausing is unleashed. By pausing deliberately before answering a complex question, before delivering a crucial instruction, or before making a profound final statement, you create an intentional moment of acute psychological tension. an anticipatory silent vacuum that forces the other party to focus intensely, anxiously wait, and mentally prioritize the exact moment of your ultimate pronouncement. Machiavelli wrote extensively of the necessity of projecting unmistakable gravity and seriousness in all public acts. Nothing projects this gravity more profoundly than the absolute, unyielding refusal to be rushed by external, frivolous pressure. The unrushed authority transforms your voice from a reactive instrument into a measured, powerful tool of command. Your voice should not shout or plead. It should resonate, carrying the deep, calm, internal conviction that every single syllable you utter is an unassailable truth that the world must halt its momentum and wait for. The control of your tempo is the nonverbal ownership of the entire interaction. The fourth secret. The strategic denial of validation. The fourth secret is the absolute, continuous implementation of the strategic denial of validation, mastering the discipline of the energy hoard. The vast majority of people, the unmastered, are emotional children, perpetually seeking external, low-cost validation to fuel their fragile, unstable egos. They speak primarily to elicit an emotional reaction. They tell self-aggrandizing stories to solicit laughter and admiration. They make declarative statements to generate automatic approval, and they look continuously to others for constant feedback that confirms their fragile worth. The common, unmastered man gives away their validation freely, laughing too easily, complimenting too often and too broadly, and providing effusive, constant confirmation and emotional mirroring. The God-level aura demands the reverse. You must relentlessly hoard your energetic resources and strictly, surgically control the outflow of your validation and emotional currency. This is not permission to be rude or dismissive. It is the command to operate with a profound, high-level indifference to their desperate need for external fuel. When others speak, you listen with the weight of the gaze, but you respond with minimal, neutral acknowledgement that confirms you heard them, but not that you approved of them. You do not laugh at every predictable joke. You do not automatically compliment their performance or their material possessions. You deliberately withhold the reflexive head nod, the instantaneous emotional mirroring, and the instant effusive approval. This subtle, powerful, and consistent denial creates a profound, painful psychological effect. It immediately transfers the burden of proof entirely back onto the speaker. They are immediately forced to expend maximum effort and work harder for your reaction. And that resulting effort, that struggle for acknowledgement, dramatically elevates the perceived value of your eventual, rare, and high-quality acknowledgement. Your intentionally withheld validation instantly becomes a powerful, aspirational reward, a prize that requires genuine utility to earn. Machiavelli understood that dependence is the core engine of power. When others are psychologically dependent on you for their emotional regulation and stability, you gain total control over their future behavior. By denying cheap, easy validation, you immediately create an emotional energy dependency that only you can satisfy, but you only provide that satisfaction as a measured, strategic reward for behavior that directly aligns with your core objectives. The energy hoard means you must learn to listen analytically, absorbing every piece of strategic information without expending any emotional capital in return. Your quiet, neutral, non-committal response makes them deeply uneasy, forcing them to question the success of their own social performance and the validity of their claims. When you finally do choose to validate, the extreme rarity of your approval transforms it into a profound psychological prize, a reward they will desperately seek to replicate and earn again. The conservation of your emotion becomes the generator of their need. The fifth secret, the law of non-justification. The fifth, most difficult and most existentially critical secret, linking directly back to the core principles of the Unreadable Man blueprint, is the complete, absolute adoption of the law of non-justification, the iron-willed, permanent refusal to explain. The unmastered constantly and compulsively feel compelled to justify their choices, their periods of distance, their strategic silence, their wealth, or their lack of immediate availability. They operate under the naive belief that providing a detailed reason mitigates potential confrontation and successfully secures immediate, facile acceptance. The brutal, unsentimental truth is that explanation is a defensive, self-sabotaging act that instantaneously signals internal insecurity, confirms that you seek external approval for your sovereignty, and hands your adversaries a detailed blueprint for your entire decision-making process. The God-level aura is incapable of justifying itself. It simply exists as a foundational reality. The refusal to explain transforms your actions from negotiable, debatable choices into irrefutable, undeniable facts. When you make a decision to leave a room, to terminate a negotiation, to establish a non-negotiable boundary, you announce the resulting fact with cold clarity, and then you completely embrace and accept the resulting silence and ambiguity. When asked the predictable question of why, the only permissible answer is a bland, simple statement of the fact itself, or, ideally, impenetrable, heavy silence. By ruthlessly withholding the why, you maintain the mystery and the supreme psychological leverage of your motive, ensuring that you remain permanently unreadable. Your action stands alone, unassailable by argument or rationalization. Machiavelli's analysis of failing authority understood that a ruler or an authority figure who must constantly justify and rationalize his actions is an authority on the verge of immediate collapse. True, unassailable power does not debate its existence or its rationale. It dictates the final, absolute reality. The law of non-justification instantly transfers the entire cognitive burden. Instead of you expending finite energy defending your choice, the other party must expend enormous energy attempting to figure out your choice. This is the leverage of ambiguity applied to the most minute details of your daily decisions. You must allow them to assume, allow them to speculate, and allow them to project their fear and anxiety onto your silence. Every false, self-serving assumption they make is merely a new, unplanned layer added to the protective armor of your aura. Your non-explanation is the profound, final declaration that your internal sovereignty is complete and your decisions are not up for public tender, debate, or vote. The only explanation you owe is strictly to your own personal, high-stakes objective, and that objective is permanently private. The sixth secret, the principle of clean withdrawal. The sixth secret is the clinical, precise execution of the principle of clean withdrawal, mastering the elegant, lethal technique of the calculated disappearance. The unmastered make noisy, dramatic, emotional exits. They loudly announce their intentions. They slam doors. They engage in last-minute draining arguments, turning their departure into a messy, emotional spectacle that ultimately fatally devalues their position and instantly invites low-level pursuit. The God-level aura dictates that your entire exit must be as seamless, controlled, and strategically efficient as your entry. A clean withdrawal is the disciplined ability to terminate any interaction, a conversation, a negotiation, a social gathering, or even a deep relationship, at the precise, optimal moment you have achieved your objective, or, crucially, the precise moment your value begins to be taken for granted or consumed for free. This withdrawal must be executed without fanfare, without any emotional explanation, and with an unmistakable air of complete, unapologetic finality. This technique serves two powerful purposes. First, it instantly establishes the absolute control of the ending. By leaving first and decisively, you control the final lasting impression, ensuring that your perceived value is psychologically frozen at its peak, rather than allowing it to slowly decay through a prolonged, unnecessary, and diminishing presence. Second, it instantly triggers the loss aversion principle. Your sudden, clean, and unexplained absence creates an immediate psychological shock and a vacuum that compels the other party to focus intensely on the high value you just removed. Machiavelli wrote of the necessity of maintaining power through the constant, palpable fear of loss, and the clean withdrawal is the ultimate non-verbal, immediate demonstration of that loss in action. The unreadable man does not linger or overstay his strategic welcome. He moves with deliberate purpose, leaving behind only the profound, unsettling, and valuable question of when he will choose to return, or if he will choose to return at all. Your exit is not a retreat. It is the resetting of the value proposition, forcing the environment to acknowledge the true hidden weight of your presence through the immediate painful shock of your absence. This quiet, definitive disappearance is the non-verbal, measurable punishment for low effort and low respect. The seventh secret, the weaponization of disinterest. The final, unifying, and defining secret of the God-level aura is the absolute weaponization of disinterest, adopting the final, impenetrable posture of the emotional shield. The unmastered are easily excited, easily hurt, and easily emotionally invested, making their emotional state an open, undefended field for any manipulation tactic. They care deeply and too often about the wrong things: superficial social outcomes, fleeting public opinion, cheap, superficial praise, or minor irrelevant conflicts. The God-level aura is characterized by a high-level, profound, and demonstrable disinterest in anything that does not directly contribute to the core, singular objectives of its sovereign. This disinterest is the ultimate emotional shield, making you entirely impervious to the daily slings and arrows of social drama, workplace pettiness, and shallow provocation. The weaponization of disinterest means you must rigorously train your mind to view the vast majority of social interactions, conflicts, and emotional pleas as low-stakes distractions that are irrelevant to your macro strategy. When presented with gossip, drama, or transparent attempts to provoke your anger or sympathy, your response is a neutral, detached, unmoving silence. This absolute refusal to engage instantly transfers the full responsibility for the drama entirely back to the originator, who quickly realizes with frustration that their chaos finds no stable purchase or desired reaction in your sovereign sphere. Machiavelli's doctrine of rationality over emotion finds its final, highest expression here. You only permit yourself to become interested, engaged, or emotionally invested in matters of high strategic consequence and genuine utility. The overwhelming majority of the world's trivialities are now permanently beneath your notice. This visible disinterest, a subtle roll of the shoulder, an unhurried, calm breath, a neutral, non-reactive facial expression, is the final, most powerful pillar of non-verbal fear. People fear what they cannot move, influence, or affect. When they realize that their insults cannot penetrate your emotional shield and their praise cannot inflate your ego, they lose all leverage. You become an existential, unsolvable challenge, a force that can only be engaged with on its own terms, terms of high purpose, high respect, and high utility. Your indifference to their emotional chaos is the ultimate proof of your internal freedom and your sovereignty. The elaborate, multi-layered construction of the God-level aura is now absolutely complete. You possess the 7 pillars that transform your mere presence into a magnetic, terrifying force of command. The path from the noisy, predictable man to the silent, God-level aura is a lifelong commitment to unyielding self-control. You must accept that your newfound stillness, your heavy gaze, your slow speech, your hoarded validation, your refusal to explain, your clean withdrawal, and your emotional disinterest will make the unmastered deeply, fundamentally uncomfortable. They will struggle against the palpable weight of your presence because they can no longer find the easy leverage to move you. They will try every tactic to pull you back into the chaos of noise and reaction. Your only effective, final defense is the continued, relentless, and impeccable execution of this blueprint. Your new aura is not a mask you can remove. It is the undeniable external manifestation of your complete internal sovereignty. You are no longer defined by the casual words you speak. You are commanded by the terrifying, profound silence you choose to keep. You are not just commanding conditional respect. You are projecting non-verbal fear, the ultimate, most reliable currency of enduring control.